Here we're at part 3 of our Proxmox installation series. We're going to be taking a look at Proxmox's in-built firewall, as well as Proxmox Backup Server. 2 of them actually, and you'll see why shortly. We'll then wrap up this series with upgrading our whole environment to the latest Proxmox release. And with that being said, we're going to kick things off with the Proxmox firewall. Not only can I create allow or deny rules at the data center and host levels, but I can also apply them directly to individual VMs. And the best part of that, those firewall rules move with the VM. First things first, let's make sure the firewall is disabled on each host. Click on each host, go to Firewall, Options, and check that Firewall is set to No. Next, go to the data center object, then navigate to Firewall, Options. Double click on Firewall, set it to Yes, and click OK. Before adding our first rule, let's just double check that our website is working. I'll open up my browser and enter in the IP of my Ubuntu LXC Web 1 container. And that's great, we can still reach our website. Click on Ubuntu LXC Web 1 container and on Firewall. Let's create a rule that will block HTTP. Click on Add, Direction, leave as in. Action, change to drop. Interface, source, destination, leave as default. This means that the source and destination will be set as any. Click the Enable button. Macro set to HTTP and click Add. Click on the Options menu, then double click on Firewall and enable it. Now go back to your browser and try to reach Ubuntu LXC Web 1's site again. The browser tries, but after a short time, you get the message that the site can't be reached. If I want the same rule base for my second container, Ubuntu LXC Web 2, I'll need to repeat the same process again, which I don't really want to do. So I'm going to show you a better way. I'll delete the previous rule I created on container LXC Web 1, click on Data Center, and under the Firewall section, click on Alias. Click Add and type in Ubuntu LXC Web 1, followed by the IP address. Repeat the same process for Ubuntu LXC Web 2. Click on IP set and then click Create. Type in a name like Ubuntu LXC Web Servers. On the right side, click on Add, select Ubuntu LXC Web 1 and click Create. Do the same for Ubuntu LXC Web 2. So now we have our web servers grouped together, and it's time to create some rules. Click on the security group and then create. Enter in a name. I'll use LXC Web Service. Click Add on the right-hand side to create our first rule. We're going to do exactly the same as before, where we block HTTP. Fill out everything the same. Direction in, action drop, enable on, and macro HTTP. And this time, select destination as our freshly created IP set. I can now apply this web server rule base to any VM or container. Go back to the Firewall section in our Ubuntu LXC Web 1 container. Click Insert Security Group. Select Web Servers and tick Enable. As mentioned before, this rule base will follow the server around even if you migrate it between hosts. I'll show you this quickly by moving LXC Web 1 to Proxhost 2. You can see the security group has stuck with the container. I'll now perform the same test and see if I can browse the website. Again, after a short period of time, I get the message the site can't be reached. Go to Ubuntu LXC 02, click on Firewall, Options, and enable the firewall. Click back on Firewall and insert security group. And just like that, the same rule base is applied. Let's test it quickly. And as expected, it's blocked. Now, of course, we don't want to block HTTP to our web server. Therefore, I'll make one change in my data center, go to Firewall, Security Group, and change the rule to Accept. This now applies to both web containers instantly. So that's super convenient. Final check, Ubuntu LXC Web 1 is reachable. And we'll also try on Ubuntu LXC Web 2, and that is also up. If you have any questions about firewall rules, drop them in the comment section below, or head on over to my Discord server, link will be in the video description, and ask your questions there. Back in part 1 where we set up our NFS storage, you'll see that we added a backup volume. Well, it's finally time to put that to use by configuring backups for our VMs and containers. Let's go. Click on the data center object at the top left and select Backup. Then click Add. Leave Node as All. For storage, I'll select my backup repository called Proxmox_Backups. Schedule, I'll change to every day 9 p.m. And then I'll edit this field to make it 10 p.m. For selection mode, I'll leave Select All. However, you can also select Include Selected VMs or Exclude Selected VMs. The rest will leave default. Click on the Retention tab. I only want to keep the last 3. Therefore, I'll place a 3 into the Keep Daily field. Click on Note Template. I'll change the backup notes to read Note-Guest Name. You have a few other options beneath as well. This gets populated into the Notes section of the VM backup, and we'll check this out in just a sec. Click the Advanced tab. We'll leave all of this as default, and finally, click Create. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like waiting for this backup to start at 10 p.m. Therefore, I'll select it and click Run Now. You can see in the task list below that backups are running. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to make you sit through the whole backup task. I'm going to fast forward this a bit. All right, the backups are now done, but let's just pause here for a moment. Let's be honest, this is just a basic backup to NFS storage. It works, sure, but we want more than that, don't we? The good news, there is a better way, and I'm about to show it to you. It's called Proxmox Backup Server. Proxmox Backup Server can encrypt your backups, automatically verify them for integrity, dedupe, and even replicate backups to another Proxmox Backup Server for offsite protection. Oh, and if you're dealing with long-term archiving, it also supports LTO tape drives. To deploy this, it's very simple. As I'm running completely nested here within VMware, I'm going to deploy this as a VM. For my lab instance, I'll create a VM and name it PRX PBS1 and select Debian for the OS. I'll allocate 4 CPUs, 8 GB of RAM, 60 GB for my OS hard drive, and then I'm going to add 3 times 100 GB drives for my backups. Create the VM and then power it on. Open up the remote console and mount the Proxmox ISO image. Hit enter to start installing Proxmox Backup Server. Accept the EULA. Make sure that your boot drive is selected. For me, it's the 60 GB drive. Set the country, time zone, and keyboard layout. Next, set your root password and enter in your email address for alerts. Set your FQDN, IP address, gateway, and DNS server. Double check all your settings, and if you're happy, click Install. This takes just a few minutes, during which the appliance will reboot. Once it's done, we'll be ready to access the web UI. After the appliance reboots, connect to the web address. For me, that's HTTPS on 192.168.1.213, port 8007. Log in with your root username and password you set during the setup wizard. Straight away, I'm changing this to dark mode. Top right hand corner, click on root at PAM, select color theme and change it to Proxmox Dark. Go to the administration menu on the left, click on repositories and disable PBS Enterprise repo. Click add and select no subscription. We can now get updates for our PBS by clicking on the updates tab, followed by the refresh button. There's a few updates to apply here. Click on upgrade. Once finished, give the VM a reboot. Back in the web UI, I'm going to set up my storage. Click on storage/disks under the administration menu. Make sure that you see your unused disks here. I can see my 3 by 100 gig disks, so I'm ready to proceed to the next step. Click on ZFS at the top here, followed by Create ZFS. Let's give it a name of Backup Data Store 1. I'm selecting RAID Z for my RAID level. This allows for 1 disk failure. And I'll leave a link in the video description below with more info on other RAID Z options. Leave compression and A shift as default, then select all 3 disks and click on Create. Check that the health column is showing online, and if so, then head on over to Backup Data Store 1 under the Data Store menu. Click on Prune and GC Jobs. Click Edit under Garbage Collect Jobs. Select Saturday, 6:15 p.m. You can backspace here and change the time if you like to 8:15 p.m. and then click on OK. For the prune job, we need to decide who controls pruning, PBS or the backup job itself. If your setup is simple with just one backup job and a single retention policy, you can let PBS handle it. However, if you need more granular control, then it's probably better to manage pruning through the PBS backup job settings. Since I want granular control, I won't configure pruning here. Instead, I'll manage it through my backup job settings. Click on the Verify Jobs tab and then click on Add. Select the schedule every day 9 p.m. and I'll change that time to 11 p.m. Re-verify after 30 days. This just means that if a job's already been verified, it'll skip re-verifying it again for the next 30 days. I'm going to leave the rest as is and I'll click on Add. There is another option for verification and that is in the Options tab. Verify new snapshots. Enabling this to yes will verify the job as soon as it completes. I'll turn this on. Now my jobs will be verified immediately after they run, and the scheduled verification job will re-verify them every 30 days. Now the question is, how do we hook this into our Proxmox cluster? Click on the Summary tab and then on the Show Connection Information. Keep this window here just for a sec. Head back to your Proxmox virtual environment, click on Data Center, Storage, click on Add and select Proxmox Backup Server. For ID, I'll type in PRX PBS1. For server, I'll copy the IP address from my connection information window. Username will be root@pam. Enter in your password. For data store, I'll name it Backup Data Store 1. Then head back to the connection info and copy that whole fingerprint. Click Add and you'll notice that the backup drive is automatically added to all of the hosts in the cluster. Let's change our existing backup jobs to use our new Proxmox backup server. Click on Data Center, select Backup and edit the job. Drop down Storage and select the new PBS. Click on Retention and make sure you have something set here. For me, I'll keep the last 7 dailies and then click on OK. Like last time, I don't want to wait for the schedule to kick in, therefore I'll click on Run Now. Once the backup has finished, click on your backup data store and go to Backups. Remember those backup notes? Well, we can see them right here, which was set by the variables we configured earlier, note and guest name. Take a look at the verify state. All of the backups are already verified. If you want to manually prune a job, you can select the job, click on Prune Group. On the right-hand side are the number of backups on the PBS. Use the left-hand side to decide how many backups you wish to keep. Alternatively, you can achieve the same thing in the PBS server. Switch over to PBS, make sure your backup data store is selected and click on the Content tab. Select a job and click on the little scissors under the Actions column. Here you can do exactly the same thing. Now we all know how important backups are and we want to protect this by all means necessary. An additional step we can take is to enable 2FA on our account. Click on Access Control and select Two-Factor Authentication. Click on Add and select TOTP. Add a short description like 2FA for root. I recommend copying that secret key and storing it safely in your password repository. We'll also be creating some recovery keys. I'll scan the QR code with Google Authenticator and enter the code in to verify. Click on Add again and select Recovery Keys. Make sure your account is selected and click on Add. Recovery keys are only displayed once. Therefore, make sure you grab a copy of them and also place them in your password repository. Log out and log back in again. Notice now you're prompted with the 2FA key, but you also have the option to use a recovery key. I'll enter in a code here from Google Authenticator and I'm in. Important note here though, if you enable 2FA on your root account and you're using your root account to mount your backup storage on the Proxmox host, your backup jobs are going to fail, as the host can't authenticate with 2FA to the storage. Therefore, make sure you use another account for mounting storage that does not have 2FA enabled. One last thing we forgot to do is enable encryption on our backup storage. We do this within the data center object and storage, selecting our PBS storage and then clicking on Edit. Click on the Encryption tab and select Auto Generate a Client Encryption Key. This key is extremely important and you must keep a copy of it somewhere secure. Without it, you might not be able to restore from backups. You have 3 options here. Select the one you prefer and then save your key securely. But what good are backups if we can't restore? And that's exactly what we're going to do now. Test our restores. We're going to delete our Ubuntu LXC Web 1 container. I'll power it down and then delete it from the system. I'll enter in the ID, confirm the 2 delete options, and yep, it's gone. Click on the Prox PBS 1 storage on any host. Then click on Backups. In the search field, type in LXC Web 1. I'll select the latest backup and then click Restore. Where do we want to restore this to? I'm going to be restoring this to my Ceph pool. The container/VM number is just simply the next available, which is pretty cool. I don't want to make any other changes here, therefore I'll click Restore. Container has now been restored with the same config, same firewall group. I'll power it up and then test if the website is working. I'll do this in an incognito browser. And yep, it is working. But what if you need to restore something a little less drastic, like a file? Well, we can simply repeat the process, but this time we click on File Restore. Browse to the file or folder you need. Let's grab /root/.bashrc and then click on Download. You can also download an entire folder if you wish. And just a reminder, File Restore is only available when you use Proxmox Backup Server. So therefore, use PBS. Now, I want to take this backup architecture to the next level. I want to make it even more secure and help protect us against ransomware. We can do this by air-gapping our backups. Let's explain as we go along. However, we need a second PBS server. This second PBS is going to be the location for our offsite backups, and we'll get to the air-gap part in just a sec. To get this going, I need to connect 2 PBS servers together. On PBS2, we head to Configuration, Remotes, and click on Add. Remote ID will be the name of the primary PBS server. In my case, Prox PBS 1. For host, enter in PBS1's FQDN or IP. Auth ID will be the user account. In my lab, I'm going to use root, but in production, please don't use root at PAM. Create a unique user for this stuff. Enter in the password. Lastly, we need to provide PBS1's fingerprint. Switch back to PBS1, click on Dashboard, and then Show Fingerprint. Copy this guy right here, switch back to PBS2, and paste it in. Then click on Add. Now we need to repeat the process on PBS1. Click Configuration, Remotes, Add. Fill in all the info for PBS2, switch to PBS2, click on Dashboard, and then Show Fingerprint. Copy this guy right here, switch back to PBS1, paste the fingerprint, and finally, click on Add. Awesome, we have the 2 PBSs connected. We have 2 options to copy backup jobs over to PBS2. I can either set up a push job from PBS1 or a pull job from PBS2. There's no right or wrong here, it really depends on your setup and which method suits you. I've decided to set up a push job from PBS1, so from within PBS1, click on Backup Data Store 1 and then click on Sync Jobs. Click Add and select Add Push Sync Job. Use the drop-down menu for Target Remote and select PBS2. For Target Data Store, select Offsite Data Store 1. Remember that our backup job is scheduled to start at 10 p.m. So let's allow an hour and a half for it to run. Therefore, I'll set my sync schedule to start every day at 11:30 p.m. Next, you have to decide if you want to remove backups that get removed at the source. For security reasons, I would leave this unticked and control it via a pruning job. Say Mr. Hacker gets hold of your primary backups and starts deleting them. With this option ticked, it will delete all your offsite backups at the next replication interval. It's pretty scary, therefore I'll just leave this unticked. All the rest leave as default and click on OK. Select the new job and click Run Now. Once it's finished, switch over to PBS2. I can see on the Offsite Data Store 1 summary, there has been some activity. Click on Content and voila, there's all my backups. So where does the air gap come into play? First, let me explain. An air gap system means the offsite storage is completely disconnected from any network. That's right, no one can connect to it, period. Option 1, after the push job runs, I manually disconnect it from the network, which is not really ideal. I mean, who wants to wait around for backups to complete in the middle of the night? Not me. Option 2, your infrastructure supports remote API calls or some type of automation. Let's say your PBS server is connected to a physical switch. I would write a scheduled script that will log into that switch, enable the switch port about 1 minute before the pull job. Then a second script that shuts down the port after the backup completes. If you're running PBS in VMware, a quick scheduled PowerShell script can connect and disconnect the NIC for you. If you're interested in a PowerShell script, let me know and I'll post one in Discord. Now, obviously, automation is the way to go here, but you get my point. Offsite backups are now completely isolated and air-gapped from my production environment. While I was filming this content, Proxmox released 8.4. I'll leave a link to the release notes below. But before we wrap up, I want to run through an upgrade from 8.3 to 8.4 for everyone. Just before we dive into the upgrade, if you're enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe and hit that like button. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm, but more importantly, it tells me that you're finding this content valuable. And I promise to keep doing my best to bring you even more great content in the future. Thank you so much. Now back to the upgrade. Firstly, notice at the top we're running Proxmox Virtual Environment 8.3.5. Click on the first host, followed by updates. Click on that refresh button to get the latest updates, then click on upgrade. Type Y to continue, and then let's repeat the same process on our other 2 hosts. Once all the hosts have been upgraded, reconnect to the web GUI on host 1, and notice that our virtual environment is now at 8.4.1. There are a heap of improvements between 8.3 and 8.4. I encourage you to have a read through the release notes and check them out for yourselves. And that brings me to the end of this video series. It's been great having you along for the ride. I'm curious to know what other areas of Proxmox you want me to cover. Let me know in the comments or in Discord. Until next time, take care and see you all in the next video. Bye for now.